Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast. My name is Abia Grant, guys. So, welcome to Reflection by Abia. Now, guys, this is my second time recording this podcast. The first episode that I recorded, I was just like, I'm not sure about this one. The audio was doing a lot and I realized I don't necessarily need to scream into the mic. So this is the second recording of that podcast. So welcome to the chaos. Guys, we are going to actually deal with chaos in many situations and we just have to roll with the punches. It's just going to be what it be and that is okay. Maybe the first time that episode just wasn't supposed to come out, and maybe this second recording is going to bring something new. I mean, I don't know, but here we go. So, my name is Abia Grant, and welcome to Reflection by Abia. And this podcast is going to be about self awareness, self improvement, and mental health. And we're going to be having some story times. I'm going to be talking a lot about my history and things that I've gone through. And I'm hoping that with me talking about these things, I'm going to be able to grow and learn. I'm at a period in my life in the past year or two that there has been a lot of changes. And I've talked about this on my YouTube channel. I am a content creator, so I do have a YouTube channel, and that information will be listed down below, God willing. And I talk about just my experiences and things that I've dealt with, and just now being a 40-year-old woman and really going back and dissecting parts of my life that I feel like I could have did better on and talking about those moments so that maybe if somebody sees it and they're going through that particular experience and or they've dealt with it in their past, they can know that they're not the only one dealing with those, type of emotions and type of feelings and the decisions that they have made. So my YouTube channel gets into that, but I really want this podcast to really center around those topics and everything. I feel like putting a voice out there, and I don't know who may be listening to this and who may need to hear it, but maybe my voice will just help them. That has always been my goal, with my YouTube channel is to be able to help people. So this is just another avenue of helping people. Now, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people have told me that I needed to create a podcast. I remember I was sitting in a contact creation event in Brooklyn, New York a couple of months ago, and I was sitting down with some people and they were basically, asking about like what is your experiences and your purpose here and what are you trying to gain out of the course and everything. And I started to talk about like what I do and kind of just what I've been through. And now people was like, well, you should start a podcast. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily really want to start a podcast. Like that's just another thing just to add to the list, and I'm just not necessarily sure if I'm in a place and to do that. I just wasn't sure back then. But as I am sitting here, and I would say the past couple of weeks, I was just kind of like, I need to start a podcast. So I got my mic, I got my computer, and I got my headphones, and we are here. We are here, and we are representing, and we are showing up. And hopefully, as I explained before, that you guys will gain something out of my episodes and things that I do put out here on my podcast. So, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am a 40-year-old woman, as I mentioned before. I am a Black female. I am raised in Actually, Harlem. I was born in Harlem. I was raised in Harlem for, I want to say 13, 14 years. And then I moved around a lot. So one of the things I tell people when they meet me, if you know anything about New York has five boroughs. I've lived in every borough but Staten Island. And that's, just been my history of me moving around a lot as a child. And I think, just to touch bases on that, that did play parts in my life where I mean, not in necessarily, I couldn't say a negative way, but what I can say is that it was constantly moving on to the next thing. And what I could say is that most times, or now that I think about it, yeah, most times it was for a good reason. We always, at least how I was raised, is we strive for better. So I was, like I said, I was raised in Harlem, New York, and then eventually I moved out to Brooklyn, and then I stayed in Brooklyn for a pretty long time, back and forth between Brooklyn and Queens, and then eventually at about, I want to say, my early 30s, I met my husband. I am actually a newlywed. We got married in 2020, like a lot of people. I know a lot of people got married in 2020. And I decided to get married because I was just like, we really don't know about this, COVID situation. At the time, COVID was going on. A lot of people, fortunately, were passing. And I was just kind of like, if I go out, like I want to go out being married, to the person that I do love. So I got married to my husband on 10/10 of 2020. So our anniversary is in the next 9 months or so. And that has been an experience within itself in regards to the topic of marriage. I could say that I really didn't see that much in how I was raised. Like there were people in my family that were married, but no one really tells you about how hard marriage is. I mean, you hear, actually, let me take that back. People tell you how hard it is, but you necessarily don't realize how hard it is until you're actually in it. And then you're like, yeah, this is a whole situation because you're dealing with a whole different person with different feelings and different emotions and responses. And it's just sometimes like, okay, it's kind of like, okay, um, this is different. This is different than your norm because you know yourself. But I could honestly say that it's one of the best decisions that I have made for myself. I very much love my partner and I'm happy, so that's at the end of the day the most important part of that. So I have no children. Just to throw that out there. So I can't give you the experience of being a mother or anything like that. I do have family, that do have children. So I mean, I know a little something, something, but I can't necessarily say I understand the whole aspect of it. A lot of it discussions that we will have here is a lot about my own childhood and or my own experiences. So that's the part that I can relate to. So like I said, this podcast is just going to be covering a lot about just self-awareness and self-improvement. The funny thing is that on my channel, I was actually supposed to be wanting to do a group situation in regards to creating contact or content with other content creators on my YouTube channel. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. And, I was a little bit sad, but then at the same time, I was just kind of like, okay, it wasn't meant to be. And whenever that chapter comes where we could be able to create that content together, then awesome. But in the meantime, like, I just feel like this calling. I remember I was talking to my coworker the other day and I said, to her, I was like that I have this calling to be able to do this podcast situation. And she was like, just listen to the calling. If this is what you're being pulled to do, then listen to it. So, that's also the reason, why I'm here as well too, is just that, as I explained before, that this is just another avenue for me to be able to help people. Because as I explained before, is that is my number one goal, is just to be able to give people a different perspective. And again, let them know that they're not alone. I have just a lot of topics that I have written down in my phone. Actually, let me just go ahead and pull my phone up now so I could just read to you guys some of the things that I want to discuss, because we're going to hit on so much stuff. Because again, like I stated before, we're in a self improvement part of our life. So I have topics about how to avoid being burning out or burnt out. That's something that I've dealt with in the past year of being burnt out, and how I have pretty much, put a pause to life, and I had went on short-term disability, just to get a little bit into that, and I had to take time out for myself. But there's other things that I did do in that span of time in order to, I guess you could say, recoup and everything. So also I have topics about healthy boundaries. I have topics about anxiety, because that's something that I've dealt with as well too. I have topics about how to deal with, having Zen in your space. Like currently right now, me recording this podcast, I'm sitting in my room and I'm looking at the beautiful trees with the leaves falling down and the sun is coming in. Thank God, because it was raining last night. So we're happy to have the sun today. So, how to create a Zen space. I have my plants and I'm sitting on my little cot pillow, nice and comfortable as I'm talking to you guys. So, I feel like it's really important to have that Zen space. So, that's another topic that we're going to talk about in this podcast. We're going to talk about manifestation, how to just basically what things you need to introduce into your life, or what things you need to say to yourself in order to keep you going, in order to know for that, I guess you could say, reassurance that you're doing what you need to be doing. How to build relationships with coworkers. That's something that I've, dealt with. I'm the kind of person, well, I guess you don't know, but I'm the kind of person that always had sometimes, I would say, difficulty building those relationships and opening them to people. So I put myself out there in my workplace, and I can say that I've created some good bonds. So I think sometimes we get into this thing of, we're not sure if we could trust our coworkers and things like that, in which that's going to be a topic in itself, because I did have an experience like that with a fellow coworker, and how that relationship had went. But I feel that is, very important to not be closed off. So I have a topic about that, on like tips to basically build those relationships with your coworkers. And then, I have topics about how to show support with your partner and everything. Sometimes we have experiences where our partners may or may not feel like whatever we may be doing is worthwhile. So how you could deal with those type of discussions, and, just tips and everything like that. So guys, as I stated before, we have different things or different discussions that we're going to be, or I am going to be bringing to this podcast. So I do hope that you enjoy. I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast like I normally end my video, by saying, guys, stay blessed out there in those streets. Make sure that you treat each other kindly, and God willing, I will see you guys later. Bye.